Raja Bell, 12 years in the NBA, co-host of the Ringer NBA show, the real ones, with Logan Murdoch. Hey, let me ask you this. So occasionally, very occasionally, I'm right. Very occasionally. And I said with James Harden, I said, I don't trust, there's too many ifs, ands, and buts and finger crossing with all the stuff in Brooklyn. I don't know if, is Simmons engaged? Can Kevin stay healthy? Can Kyrie get along with people? But Harden to Philly to me, Raja, was like, good chemistry, great big veteran coach, just adding a Hall of Fame guard. It's going to work. It's going to work fast. It's going to work by game 2. So did you think it would be this slick this early?
I did. My only reservation about it was, what James Harden were you going to get? And my gut told me you were going to get a really motivated guy that wanted to come out there and prove that situation that just kind of took place in Brooklyn wasn't necessarily his fault. So I did think you'd get a good version of him. And I do agree that the pieces were already in place to plug in a player like James Harden and kind of seamlessly transition into the team you wanted to be down the stretch. So much of that team is relying on Joel Embiid having to create offense. And to his credit, I mean, he's as good a big and as dominant as a big as we've seen in a long time. But bringing James Harden over, taking some of the load offensively, ball handling responsibility away, some of the playmaking responsibility, and allowing Joel to kind of eat off of James Harden was a natural fit for me. And they've got really good length and athleticism defensively. They're switchable. They've got other players that can create shots and finish. So I agree. And kudos to you for being right on this occasion. Yeah. It was going to be a seamless transition.
Yeah, it happens like twice a year. So I've really got to talk about it a lot when it happens. Listen, I think Phoenix is the best team I've seen. I think they're built like an 80s team. You got the classic big with the baby hooks who runs the floor. You got wing guys. You got Booker as a 2. You got Chris Paul who's barking at people. Monty. It's a very 1985 construct. It really is an old school team. Wing defenders. You got Jay Crowder, the veteran guy who can hit big shots. You got the toughness component. And then you take Chris Paul out and you're like, boy, they're not in late game situations. What is it about Chris Paul? Because I still love Phoenix, but I watched them the other night and I'm like, late in possessions, late in games, and not quite the same. What is it with him?
Yeah, it's leadership. I mean, what you're describing, you saw it the other night with the Heat in a game in Milwaukee. They had that game in hand, and you were just missing Kyle Lowry, right? And I know we're talking about Chris Paul, but some of the turnovers and some of the disorganized possessions coming down the stretch, those don't exist with good leaders, right? And so Chris Paul is as good as there is, or as good as there's been in a very long time at just being a leader, making sure that we're organized, making sure that guys know where they're supposed to be, making sure that we're getting into those sets, not just getting into them, but getting into them timely enough to where we got 7 seconds left on the shot clock. If our set doesn't produce and somebody's not hamstrung having to shoot a terrible shot, they're just, making plays that don't make you burn a timeout where you're left with one in reserve in case they score and we need to burn one and advance the ball. And so what you're talking about is just overall leadership, experience. And in a lot of cases, that's not, leadership and experience isn't enough. It's a personality trait. It's a characteristic that a lot of people are born with. And Chris Paul is one of those people.
It's in the NFL, if a guy's a bad fit, you can trade him, you can cut him. Or let's be honest, there's like 55 players, half offense, half defense. They don't even practice together. But in the NBA, about 9 guys play on a nightly basis. A bad fit can ruin a locker room. It's just like fast. So you played on 6 different teams. 2 years ago, Lakers won the title. Last year, they were 19-8 when AD and LeBron were healthy and gave the Suns fits. They were leading 2-1, blew them out game 3, and then AD got hurt. This year, they're awful. And it's not saying Westbrook's a bad guy, but he is a bad fit. It doesn't work. And it just explained this, because you played on different teams. He's gifted. But did you ever have a situation where you're like, either you or somebody else, you're like, it just doesn't work in the room. It doesn't work on the floor.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, when we started to reconstruct or the organization, Phoenix, that is, started to reconstruct that 24 seconds or less type of team, or 17 seconds or less, sorry. We brought Shaq in, and we knew right away, in all Shaq's brilliance, and he still had tread left on the tire, that we weren't going to work as currently constituted, right, at the time. So they had to start shuffling pieces, moving guys. I got moved out. Boris Diaw got moved out to bring in more complementary pieces to play a different style of basketball. They had similar structure, but it was different because you had Shaq in, and the way we played before, it wasn't going to work with Shaq.
Yeah.
The Lakers are in a spot like that. I mean, I love Wes. I'm a Russell Westbrook fan. I love the way he competes every night. I know what I'm going to get out of him in terms of that, and I think that's undervalued in the league. But the Lakers and their personnel and what Russ does, it's just not a great fit. And what you had to give up, some of the pieces around the fringe to complement LeBron to get Russ, didn't make sense at this point. And I've said this before, I'll say it on air here. LeBron is still brilliant, but LeBron doesn't play the same way he played 4 or 5 years ago. So the recipe around LeBron, while he thinks he knows what it is to win championships, I don't think that LeBron's actually factoring in that he plays a different style of ball now. So I think they got the recipe wrong. And it wasn't just the organization. I think LeBron kind of has to figure out what pieces work with him the way he kind of plays now. What he's evolved into now isn't the same player that he was in Miami or Cleveland for that matter.
Let's talk about that because that's fascinating. I said the other day is he can pass Kareem on the all-time scoring list, and I would have no problem, especially on a team that's struggling, if he said, I'm going to get my points. But there has been an evolution of LeBron. His first 7 to 8 years in the league, he would chase people down and do these blocks off the backboard. And then LeBron's like, all right, I got some wear on these tires. I'm not going to do that as much. He started evolving into a more perimeter player. It's like, hey, the game is changing. So what you're saying now is LeBron is playing a different game. Describe to me what you mean by that.
So what LeBron offensively in the past has been a rim force, which means like what he was doing was commanding and demanding so much attention as he applied pressure to the rim that it basically just allowed him to play with a bunch of shooters around him, right? Because he was so drive oriented, so attack the basket. He could get his shoulders by his defender whenever he wanted to. And once your shoulders are by and you're 6'8", 260, I mean, it's money in the bank. So defenders were forced to suck in and have to help off of that almost all game long. It was your game plan. And so then, boom, we can play with a bunch of older, smart jump shooters. But now LeBron is perimeter based for the most part. He can still get downhill. Don't get me wrong. And he'll still dunk on you given the opportunity, but he shoots a lot more jump shots. You see a lot of greats. Kobe, turned into a back to the basket kind of jump shooter. MJ transitioned into that. LeBron is more perimeter oriented now. Doesn't cause as much pressure on your defense. So it doesn't spring as many of those just shooters for wide open shots. So he needs to play with more playmakers at this point in his career. And then to do that, you got to get off the ball a little bit more. So he's going to have to make that transition as his game continues to evolve into understanding what pieces make sense to have around.
Boy, you're smart. That's really interesting. Raja Bell joining us. So here's why I don't buy into the Brooklyn thing. I believe there are certain coaches you can change people. You can a quarterback. I can refine your throwing motion. Wide receiver. I'm going to make you a better route runner. Like that's what coaching entails, right? There's one thing you cannot change, and it's indifference. You either love this stuff or you do not. And I can't get over Ben Simmons' apathy and indifference. He didn't compete in college in big spots. He doesn't. I mean, if I was Ben Simmons, not only am I going to play against the Sixers, I am going to watch tape all day. I want to, Kobe and Michael and Bird. I can't get past that. Raja, I can't get past that indifference. Am I being too hyperbolic here? What do you make of it?
Yeah, so I don't know Ben Simmons, but I agree with you. And when I heard the Nets come out and say, we're going to kind of take it slow with him. He doesn't look like he's in great shape. Well, I sat in those meetings as someone in a front office trying to make those decisions. If Ben Simmons had come bursting through the door and said, no, I'm playing, I'm fine, I want this. Guess what we all do in that room? We say, hey, that's what we wanted to hear, bud. Let's go. And the fact that you're not getting out of them does bring into question some of the things you're talking about. And so, not knowing, and it's hard for me to say, Steve Nash is a good buddy of mine. When the last I spoke to him and we had dinner together, Ben hadn't been in the building yet. He had just got traded. They were super excited to get him. They thought the fit was going to be kind of seamless with Kyrie, Kevin Durant's skill set and what Ben did. But you got to have him on the court. And it's getting really late in the game for those three. I mean, you still don't have Kyrie for home games. Ben Simmons isn't on the court. And Kevin Durant, as great as he is, and I think he's the best player on the planet right now. I mean, that's just too much to ask him to have to do in a 19-game, 20-game, sample size to get everybody on the same page and kind of drag that team to playoff success. I don't imagine it happens this year.
Well, he was undrafted out of Florida International University and has done pretty well for himself. What did you add? Because you're a defensive guy. Let me guess your average in college. I'm going to guess this right now. Okay, because Bruce Bowen was a defensive player at Fullerton, but he could score too. So I think you scored more in college. I bet you averaged 21 and a half a game.
I averaged 18 a game. I played with Carlos Arroyo, who was another NBA player. We had an NBA backcourt, so we had to share some of that. I would have liked to have averaged 21 a game, but I had 18 a game.
See, you can score. You can put it on the deck a little bit. Great seeing you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Raja Bell, he's terrific. Ringer Show, The Real Ones, NBA Show. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.